Hello everyone, welcome to Lukmaan IAS. Today we are going to have the Hindu newspaper analysis dated 8th of November 2023. In today's newspaper analysis, we are going to cover a mapping topic, the topic that has been in news, and also apart from this, we are going to cover the important articles from the newspaper. We have also included some questions for discussion with you, right? So let us quickly look into the list of articles that we are going to cover in today's newspaper analysis. So these are the articles that we will be discussing. So name of the articles, their relevance with the syllabus, and also the page number from the Hindu newspaper is listed here. Now let us talk about the mapping topic first. So this topic is Democratic Republic of Congo. So Congo has been in news today in the Hindu newspaper related to mass exodus of people, right? Mass exodus of people from Congo. So in that context, we need to understand about where is Congo located. So this is going to be a purely discussion from the mapping point of view. So Congo is a country which is located in African continent, right? So over here we can see a map of Africa, right? So Africa is a continent, and if we see the map of Africa, to the north of Africa we have, let's say, the Mediterranean Sea. To the northeast of Africa we have the Red Sea, and then we have the Indian Ocean to the east of Africa. And if we talk about to the west of Africa, we have South Atlantic Ocean, or it is Atlantic Ocean over here. So these are some water bodies that surrounds African continent. And if we talk about the Democratic Republic of Congo, so this is the location of the Democratic Republic of Congo. So this is a country in Africa, and this country is in news related to many, let's say, many matters that are there. So having understood the location of the Democratic Republic of Congo, we need to discuss about some important factors about this country. One of the important factor is that the equator passes through this country. Equator is 0-degree line. So what is equator? To understand this, we will quickly see the, let's say, map of the globe. So let's say this is the map of the globe, and this is a line that divides this thing into two halves. The northern half is known as northern hemisphere, and the southern half is known as southern hemisphere, right? So southern hemisphere. So this 0-degree line, this is known as equator. This 0-degree line is known as equator. So this equatorial line passes through, right? It passes through which? It passes through what? It passes through the Democratic Republic of Congo. We can see over here, right? It passes through Democratic Republic of Congo. And this equatorial line, equator, also passes through Lake Victoria. We can see over here, it also passes through Lake Victoria. That's also a very important information. And if we see to the western side, the other, let's say, map, which is a map of Democratic Republic of Congo, this is an enlarged map. In this map, we will see some physical features related to Congo. What are the physical features? For example, let us look at the rivers that flows through Congo, right? One of the river is known as Ubangi River. Okay, name of the river is Ubangi River. This river flows through Congo. Another river is Congo River. Okay, Congo River. So this name of the river is, let's say, derived from the name of the country itself, or name of the country is derived from the name of the river. Vice versa, it can be the thing. Okay, and there are other rivers also, like Kwa River. This is Congo River. This Kasai, and also these are rivers. If we talk about some of the mountains over here, right? If we talk about mountains, one of the mountain is known as Mount Stanley. Okay, this is Mount Stanley. Then we have another mountain which is known as Mount Nyiragongo. Okay, Mount Nyiragongo. So these are some of the mountains that are there. And apart from this, if we talk about, let's say, which lakes are there, one of the lake is, let's say, Lake Edward, which is there in the eastern side of Congo. Then we have Lake Albert. Okay, Lake Albert, Lake Edward, and Lake Kivu. Then we have Lake Tanganyika. So these are there. Lake Mareo. Then so these are some of the lakes. The Lake Tanganyika is, let's say, taught as part of physical geography whenever mapping classes are taken. So Lake Tanganyika is taught, right? Lake Albert, Lake Edward. So these lakes are taught. So these lakes are located to the eastern portion of this country, right? So the eastern border of this country shares, let's say like, the eastern border shares these lakes. Okay, this is important. Apart from understanding this, now let us understand which countries surround Congo. Okay, which countries share border with Congo. Okay, so as we can see from over here, Congo is a country, right? So Congo is a country which is surrounded by many other countries. What are those countries? One of the country is Central African Republic. Okay, over here, this is the map of Congo. So I'll just draw the map of Congo once again for you. Okay, this is the map of Congo, like that. Okay, this is the map of Congo. Democratic Republic of Congo. One of the country that, let's say, shares border with Congo is Central African Republic. Apart from this, another country is this Congo. Okay, Congo is also a name of a country. This is the thing. Then we have to the east, we have, let's say, Uganda. Uganda, you see, Uganda. Then we see another country which is, let's say, South Sudan. South Sudan also shares border with Congo. Okay, South Sudan. So like 3, this is 4, South Sudan. Then we have 5, Tanzania. Okay, so like 5 is Tanzania. Tanzania also shares border with Congo. Then there is a country which is Malawi. Although let's say like Malawi, yes, Malawi does share border with Congo. Okay, so this Malawi. We have Lake Malawi over here. We have Zambia. We have Angola. Okay, so these are some of the countries that border Congo. So in your free time, go through the map of this Congo country, right, and see those countries that surround Congo. Apart from this, in your free time, also see some of the physical features of the, let's say, African continent. I mean, like which rivers are there, which water bodies are there that surrounds African continent. So that will be important. The most important information that I said is that equator passes through Congo and it also passes through Lake Victoria. That's the thing. So having understood this, now let us move to the first topic for discussion today. Name of the topic is the problem with the 70 hours a week line. Okay, so where did we get the idea of 70 hours a week? So this idea has been, let's say, proposed by the Infosys co-founder, Mr. N.R. Narayan Murthy. Okay, Mr. N.R. Narayan Murthy. So Mr. Narayan Murthy has recently proposed that the workers in India should work at least 70 hours a week to take India forward, to let's say bring India towards growth, right? He has proposed that particular idea. And that idea has been, let's say, supported, backed by many people. Many people are supporting that idea. However, through this article, this author, who is a retired professor from JNU, he says that what are the problems with this 70 hours a week work idea, right? What are the problems? So he highlights many problems are there with this particular proposal. One of the idea that he has, let's say talked about that, he says that Mr. Narayan Murthy has proposed, what he has proposed, that developed countries, for example, if we talk about Germany and Japan, right, so they have developed because their people have worked, right, 70 hours a week, because their people still work 70 hours a week. So the author says that this particular proposition is incorrect. It is factually incorrect, because if we talk about the country, if we talk about, let's say Germany, if we talk about Germany, so in Germany what happened, earlier they had in 1870 they had 68 hours a week formula. But now if we talk about let's say 2017, if we talk about 2017, now in Germany people work for 28 hours a week. So the thing is, presently people in Germany are working 28 hours a week, means they are working very less in a week, right? So this is totally contrary to the factual thing that is proposed by Mr. Narayan Murthy. This is one idea. Apart from this, if we talk about Japan as a country, right, Japan. So in Japan, earlier in 1950s, okay, in 1950s in Japan, so people used to work for about let's say like for about 44 hours in a week in 1960, and the thing is in 2017, right, if we talk about the figure of 2017, people work for about 35 hours per week, okay, 35 hours per week. Earlier in 1961 around, people used to work for 44 hours in a week, 44 hours in a week. So this is the thing. So in this article, the author says that like the ideas that are proposed, that like developed countries like Germany, Japan, their people work for longer duration. This is factually incorrect according to this author. So this is one point. The second point, the author says that here Mr. Narayan Murthy has, let's say, put the burden of growth of the country on the working class, on the workers. So according to Mr. Narayan Murthy, if workers are working for 70 hours in a week, then the country is going to make progress. However, the author says that country is going to make progress if we focus more on innovation. Because if we compare India with developed countries, in developed countries they are highly innovation driven. Since they are highly innovation driven, so these countries have, let's say, spent a huge amount of money in research and development. They still invest huge amount of money in research and development. If we talk about India, in India we spend around 0.65% of our GDP, right, of our GDP where? In innovation. So which is a very, very small or minute percentage, okay. We spend a very small amount of our money into research and development, into innovation. This is second thing. Third problem with the proposition of 70 hours a week is that Mr. Narayan Murthy's proposal violates international labor standards and the International Labor Organization's decent work agenda, okay. So this is the third, let's say, third thing that says like what are the problems with the proposal. The first thing that we discussed, first thing was related to, he said like countries like Germany and Japan, their people work for at least 70 hours a week. That is totally incorrect, factually incorrect, because in Japan people work for about 35 hours per week. In Germany people work for about 28 hours per week. So they are developed countries and they have let's say like they have reduced their working hours for the people. And if we talk about other idea that we have discussed, the second thing was related to like here Mr. Narayan Murthy has put the burden on the working class, that working class should work more. However, this is incorrect. Like like people should invest more in research and development. People should focus on innovation. That's going to grow, drive the growth of the economy. Third thing is related to, third thing is related to that this particular proposal violates the international labor standards, including the International Labor Organization's convention. In 1919, okay, in the year of 1919, International Labor Organization has come up with its first, okay, it has come up with its first, let's say like convention that says hours of work, Industry Convention 1919. Okay, so we are going to discuss about this. So there are some important points. One of the thing is like ILO's convention. Which convention we are going to talk about? We are going to discuss about the first convention of the International Labor Organization. So it is convention number 1, ILO convention number 1. So this convention number 1 has been brought by ILO and it was the first convention. It says hours of work, Industry Convention 1919. Hours of work, Industry Convention of 1919. Okay, so this is so according to this, the International Labor Organization says that the number of work should be 8 hours per day. Okay, it should be according to 8 hours per day. It should not be, let's say, it should not exceed 8 hours per day of work, so that people get sufficient time for healing, people get sufficient time for leisure activities also, so that they can get time to spend with their family. So this is the first convention of the International Labor Organization. So this violates that thing also. And if you talk about working hours in the advanced world or in the developed countries. So as we discussed earlier, in Japan, they have around 35 hours per week work culture, and if means like which is totally half of what is being proposed now. And if we talk about Germany, they have still lower working hours, right, per week. It is 28 hours per week. So these are the things, these are the international standards. And if we go by one of the report, that is like, this is known as India Innovation Report. Okay, it is India Innovation Index 2020 that was produced by Niti Aayog. So according to this index, right, India says like, so this index actually talks about the reality of the innovation that happens in India. So the report showed that in 2018, India's gross expenditure on research and development as a percentage of GDP was 0.65% only. Okay, so we have just spent 0.65% of our GDP in, let's say, like, gross expenditure on research and development in the year of 2018, which is way less than many developed countries. Okay, it is very less than many developed countries. This is the thing. Apart from this, in this article itself, the author talks about, right, many other things. I mean, like one of the conventions that we just discussed, this is ILO convention number 1 that says hours of work invention, like Industry Convention 1919. According to this, like, people should work for 8 hours per day, right, 8 hours per day. And together with ILO's decent work agenda, which deals with decent working time, the ILO is increasingly figuring in global trade rules. Okay, so for example, the bilateral free trade agreements, right, in bilateral free trade agreements, people mention about this particular thing, that like, people who are working in industries, so they should not work beyond 8 hours. Okay, so that, like, they can get family time also. Apart from this, there are other things also. One of the grouping, which is known as Indo-Pacific Economic Framework for Prosperity, it has 14 countries, and in that grouping also they have promoted the idea of international labor standards, right, in that grouping as well. Apart from this, there are many other things. For example, if we talk about supply chain regulation, so the European member countries, the European member states have put in place regulations on supply chain, so called supply chain due diligence. So according to this supply chain due diligence, those companies that are situated in European Union, those companies should make it sure that from wherever they are getting the supplies of their goods or services, they should make sure that those people who are supplying those goods and services, like, those companies from where they are getting those inputs, those companies should not make their people, let's say, like, work more than, I mean, like, what is internationally accepted, so that, like, their adverse impact on slavery, child labor, labor exploitation, besides environmental degradation throughout the across supply chains should be taken care of. Means, like, these things should not happen, like, slavery, impact on child labor and labor exploitation should not happen through the supply chains in which the European companies are, let's say, like, engaging. This is the thing. Apart from this, France has come up with a new law, and it is known as Corporate Duty of Vigilance Law 2017. France has come up with this law. So this Corporate Duty of Vigilance Law is applicable to French companies that have 5,000 people working under them in France, or that has, let's say, 10,000 people working under them worldwide. So these companies are made liable, that these companies should have a corporate duty of vigilance officer. So they should look into the aspect of, let's say, labor exploitation, whether some people are being exploited or child labor is happening, so that, these things should not happen. These things should be taken care of. These things should be addressed. Okay. Apart from this, there are many other countries also. For example, if we talk about Germany, they have enacted Supply Chain Due Diligence Act 2022, making it mandatory for German companies with 3,000 or more employees to monitor and act on violations of human rights, including forced labor, both within their own operations as well as those, like, their direct suppliers. So this is the thing. Germany has also come up with a law. This is known as Supply Chain Due Diligence Act 2022. So according to that act, those companies that have 3,000 or more workers, they should make it sure that, like, there should not be violations of human rights, there should not be forced labor, right, within their company premises, and also it should not happen, let's say, in the suppliers side as well. This is the thing. And apart from this, the European Union member states collectively adopted corporate sustainability due diligence directive. Okay, so these are some of the examples, right? Examples from France, examples from European Union, examples from Germany, examples from Japan. So these are, let's say, developed countries. And if these developed countries have reduced the number of working hours, if they are, let's say, making sure that, like, their people are not exploited, so why India should not do it, right? India should also focus on, let's say, like, human rights. They should focus on labor welfare. They should not focus on, let's say, exploiting the labor or working class people. So finally, the author says that there are sound reasons why a section of India that backs the like an idea ought not support a weakening of labor rights. So if we support this 70 hours work week, it is going to weaken the labor rights. It's going to weaken the, let's say, human rights also of the labor class people. Now we have a question, very simple question. What are the key challenges workers face in terms of fair wages, working hours and workplace safety, and how can these challenges be addressed in India? Okay, addressed. So you need to write an answer to this question in your free time. And after writing, you share your answer with me at Jahidul@lukmaanias.com. Okay. After writing an answer, you can share it to me on this email ID. Okay. Just pause this video and write this email. And after writing answer, you can share this answer with me. I'm going to, let's say, evaluate this answer for you. So another, let's say, topic. This topic is equally interesting as the previous topic. And through this topic, we are going to discuss about some of the international laws and how, let's say, like, economic laws can impact, right, the domestic laws as well. So there are, let's say, like, very complex relationship between, like, domestic acts and their impact on the international law or the international treaty that a country has signed, how it is going to impact the domestic legislations and all. So this article says a verdict that hampers international law obligation. So we are talking about a verdict that has been given by the Supreme Court of India. So recently the Supreme Court of India was hearing a case, and this case is related to, right, Assessing Officer Circle International Taxation New Delhi versus Nestle SA case. Okay, this is the case that we are going to talk about. Assessing Officer Circle International Taxation versus Nestle. As we know that Nestle is a very big brand, it's a big company. So this is a, let's say, like, Switzerland based company. It's a multinational company. So this company has, let's say, like, good presence in India, and in the judgment of the Supreme Court, they have what they have done. They have, let's say, disposed of 11 petitions involving corporations such as Nestle, Steria, etc. Okay, so the author says that there are ambiguities in the economic laws that are there in India. The ambiguities are not only because of the executive action, it is not only because of the executives, it's also because of the judicial, let's say, pronouncements or judicial verdicts, judicial decisions, because many a times the courts are giving decisions that are contrary to the established patterns, let's say, in international law. So in this article, the author has talked about that India has signed, right? India has signed most favored nation clause, right? And India includes the most favored nation clause treaties as part of double taxation avoidance agreement. Okay, so there is an agreement which is known as double taxation avoidance agreements. So these double taxation avoidance agreements are signed by India, right, with other countries. Means like these are bilateral agreements. Okay, these are bilateral agreements. Okay, these are bilateral agreements that India signs with other countries. So in this article, the author has talked about a specific case that involves some of the countries. For example, like, if we talk about three countries, one of the countries, Netherlands, France and Switzerland. So India has signed bilateral double taxation avoidance agreements. Means like those people who are getting taxed in India, right? So they should not be getting taxed in these countries like Netherlands, France or Switzerland. If they are getting taxed over there, they should not be getting taxed here. I mean, like there should not be double taxation on the same person, right? There should not be double taxation. For that, we have signed double taxation avoidance agreements with Netherlands, France and Switzerland. All three country members of these three countries are members of the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD. Okay, these three countries are member of this. And so like these people like their companies, right, require imposing 10% withholding tax on dividends paid by Indian entities to foreign companies to residents of Netherlands and all. Okay, so those, for example, there is a foreign company, Nestle. It's a Switzerland based company, but it has its office in India. This is Indian entity of the same company, but its parent company is there. So this Indian entity, while it is paying dividend to the shareholders, right, of this company, the shareholders, let's say like they are based in Switzerland, they are based in Netherlands, or they are based in France. So Indian entity of a foreign company, if they are paying dividends to their stakeholders that are based in their own country, so in that case these companies are mandated, these companies are they are mandated that they should apply 10% withholding tax. Okay, 10% withholding tax. So this is part of like this is part of a bilateral double taxation avoidance agreement. And these double taxation avoidance agreement contain an MFN provision also. MFN means most favored nation. So a country that is given the status of most favored nation by India, right? So India is going to treat the goods of that particular country to be its own good, means like to be produced domestically. It is going to consider in that way. So it is not going to apply, let's say like different kind of taxation that are not applied to Indian let's say entities or Indian goods, right? This is the thing. I mean like their goods that are originating from their jurisdiction, so they will be treated at par with Indian goods in Indian markets. So that is known as most favored nation status. Okay, I hope you got this point. So these double taxation avoidance agreements also contain most favored nation provision. So thus, if India extends a preferential tax treatment to a third country which is a member of the OECD, the same treatment should be accorded to the Netherlands, France and Switzerland under their respective double taxation avoidance agreements. India's double taxation avoidance agreements with Slovenia, Colombia and Lithuania have a lower withholding tax of 5%. Okay, so what is the case here? Case is India has asked the, let's say, Indian entity of foreign companies to apply 10% withholding tax while paying dividend to their shareholders who are based in their own country. In this case 10%, but in other cases like Slovenia, Colombia and Lithuania, there was a lower withholding tax which is 5%. So there is an ambiguity. I mean like in some cases the executive has applied 10% withholding tax, in some other cases the executive have applied 5% withholding case. And recently the Supreme Court of India has given a verdict in which, let's say, it has upheld that 10% can be applied. Okay, so the thing is like the court judgments are also continuing with the withholding, let's say like with the ambiguous provisions. And in this article they have discussed about something which is known as doctrine of dualism. Okay, means the Supreme Court of India, while giving the verdict, they have talked about a doctrine which is known as what? Doctrine of dualism. Okay, doctrine of dualism. So according to this particular doctrine, that like India can treat different countries differently. For example, if we talk about Netherlands, if we talk about France, if we talk about Switzerland, or in the other case if we talk about those other countries, for example Slovenia, Colombia and Lithuania. Okay, Slovenia, Colombia and Lithuania. So the thing is, in this case there is a withholding tax of 5%, there is a withholding tax of 10%. So the thing is, Supreme Court of India has upheld that like Indian executives can apply different tax by applying the doctrine of dualism. Okay, by applying the doctrine of dualism. But this case directly did not come to the Supreme Court of India. Before this case was being heard by the Delhi High Court, and Delhi High Court has given a verdict that such dualism should not exist. But that has been reversed by the Supreme Court of India. So here the author is saying that, like, author is referring to various other similar cases also. One of the cases is known as, one of the cases, PUCL versus India, Vishaka versus State of Rajasthan, Puttaswamy versus Union of India. In these cases, the let's say, this particular principle has been applied. So in this article they say, this particular principle has been applied, which is the principle of dualism. Okay, this is the thing. So the premise of these cases was the presumption of compatibility, presumption of consistency between domestic and international law. Okay, but the thing is, like, if India has signed an international treaty outside, it is the responsibility of India that it should not pass a legislation, domestic legislation, that contravenes, that violates that provisions of that treaty that India has signed elsewhere, which becomes part of international law. Okay, so if India has, let's say, signed some treaty, so India should make sure that if it is passing a domestic law, domestic legislation, it should be in sync, right? It should be in compatibility, or it should be consistent with the international treaty that India has ratified or signed. Okay, so the domestic legislation should not be let's say, should not be at contravention to the international treaty that we have signed. Okay, so it says that international law is not just an interpretative tool, it has essential implications domestically. Surprisingly, the court did not refer to this line as cases in its reasoning. Okay, so author is saying that, in Vishaka case also this particular thing is there, and if we have to do it, if we have to apply the principle of dualism, if we have to apply different kind of taxation, so that should be specifically notified by the government, and it should be notified under section 90 clause 1. Okay, under section 90 clause 1 of double taxation avoidance agreements. Okay, so so the thing is, however, without a notification under section 90 clause 1, the court should have harmoniously interpreted India's international law obligation contained in double taxation avoidance agreement with that of the Income Tax Act. Okay, so this is the thing. So the author says that, although principle of dualism is not wrong, but if Government of India has signed any international treaty, if it has ratified any international treaty, so the laws that executive that the legislature is making, or any notification that the executive is coming up with, they should be inconsistent. Okay, they should be consistent, or they should be compatible with the international treaty that India has signed. Okay, this is the thing. So author says that the recent judgment in the assessing officer versus Nestle case rationalizes a violation of international law and leaves India vulnerable. Okay, leaves India vulnerable. So it says it rationalizes a violation of international law. Okay, this is the thing. So with this we will move to another article. It says, in troubled waters in Qatar. Once again, this is a very important topic, very important discussion. So here now we need to understand what is the topic that we are talking about. So recently, let's say 8 Indian former, let's say, former Navy personals. Okay, former Navy personals have been awarded, right, a death sentence. Okay, they have been awarded a death sentence by a court of first instance. Okay, death sentence by a court of first instance, where? In Qatar. Okay, this is the thing. But this particular death sentence has been awarded by the court of first instance, and the kind of investigation that they have done, the kind of, let's say, proceedings that they have done in the in coming to this verdict, that they have not disclosed it. So Indian authorities, Indian government are taking all possible measures so that these people can be brought back. However, the author highlights a kind of jingoism which is there in the media. right? There are media outlets that have given varied opinion on this particular topic. So they have said that this particular verdict or judgment by the court of first instance in Qatar actually like hampers the bilateral relations that India has with Qatar. Okay, it hampers this particular thing. But the author, who has been a former ambassador of Saudi Arabia, Oman and UAE, this author is saying that like it has nothing to do with the bilateral relations, like it is not going to hamper, because this is one singular instance case, right? The broader bilateral relations that we have with Qatar, they will remain intact. However, Indian authorities, Indian officials are taking all possible measures that these people can be brought back home, right? At the same time, the author is saying that like in the news media, news channel, right, lot of jingoism is happening. There are far right people, they are coming up with this slogan, that this particular country is a Muslim country, it's bad, like that. So the author says that all of these things, I mean like is going to hurt the sentiment of the people from both the countries. This should not be done, and the news media, the people should be, let's say like they should be very much what we say careful about, or like they should be having little rationale behind the let's say observations that they are making. So this is the thing. In this article, the author says that although this is a security issue, this is once of a kind security issue, and these 8 Indian personals were working in a private company in Qatar. Its name is Dahara. Okay, its name is Dahara Global Technologies. Okay, Dahara Global Technologies. Okay, Dahara Global Technologies and consultancy services. Okay, and consultancy services. So this company has been closed down in Qatar. However, these people are in a death row. Okay, so the thing is like Indian diplomats are trying their best to bring that particular person back, and there have been news report also that like Qatar might have done it so that like the kind of relationship that India is building with, let's say, Saudi Arabia, Israel and UAE, right? So that closeness can be, let's say, attacked. So this is not right. The author makes it very particular that like this particular thing, like this particular issue is a kind of instance case, and Indian authorities are doing their best, and like they will try their best to bring these people back home. So author says the absence of hard information has encouraged some of the most outlandish speculations in the sections of Indian media. So basically the author is criticizing what the let's say opinions that are made by some of the media outlets in this particular case. Now we have another article. This article talks about ceasefire. Where ceasefire? We are talking about ceasefire in Hamas. As we all know that like in Hamas, Israel has launched a retaliatory attack, and they have killed more than 10,000 people. Out of those 10,000 people, majority of them were children and women. Okay, women and children were in majority, and many hospitals, refugee camps and let's say other shelter houses have been targeted by the Israeli Defense Forces. But the Israeli Defense Forces say that this is a retaliatory measure. But the thing is like this retaliation, the right of defense of Israel, right, is let's say like they have let's say crossed the right of defense related thing. The initial attack that was done by Hamas has only killed about let's say 1,000-1,400 people in Israel. So if they wanted to have a proportional measure, in that case they should have let's say like killed that many persons. But the thing is, it has what they have done, they have let's say like they have made the Gaza Strip as graveyard for thousands of children. And this has been said by the United Nations. United Nations has said that Gaza Strip has become a graveyard for thousands of children, and it is a living hell for everyone else. Okay, this is the thing. So author says that like now there is a need of ceasefire. Ceasefire means the Israeli Defense Forces should put down their weapons. They should let's say introspect for some time. They should come back. Okay, then like there should be political solutions to this. So author says that like there are many other parts also. Now people have entered into this particular conflict, like Yemen's Houthis. Okay, Yemen's Houthis have already launched attack against Israel, And Israel-Lebanese border remains a tense with Hezbollah saying all options are open. So these are the things that are happening. Earlier also we have discussed about this Israel Palestine issue. I have discussed in detail about this, right? So we also have made an editorial discussion class open, right? It is there in the YouTube channel. If you want to learn more on this topic, what you can do is like you can go through this video and you can learn that learn from that video. Then we have another topic. This topic says closer together. Closer together means like here we are talking about the bilateral relations that India has, right, with Bhutan. So over here we have a country, its name is Bhutan, and this is the northeastern part of India. Okay, a rough sketch of the northeastern part of India. So there is a place, it is known as Siliguri Corridor. Okay, there is a place, it is known as Siliguri Corridor. So this Siliguri Corridor is part of a chicken snack. I mean, like, this is a very vulnerable place from the security point of view of India. And apart from this, there is a point over here. This is known as Doklam Tri-Junction. Okay, this is known as Doklam Plateau or Doklam Tri-Junction. So Doklam Plateau shares its borders with India, with Bhutan and with China. This is a tri-junction. So the thing is like, now recently what Bhutan has done, Bhutan has agreed with China to resolve the border disputes, right? So Foreign Minister of Bhutan has visited China and he has met with the Deputy Foreign Minister of China. They have talked about that. They are going to establish a diplomatic relation also. However, the King of Bhutan, right? King of Bhutan, his name is King Jigme Khesar Namgyal Wangchuk. Okay, the King of Bhutan has recently visited India. He has met with the Chief Minister of Assam, Himanta Biswa Sarma. After then, he has met with the Prime Minister of India, Mr. Narendra Modi, and like during their meeting, they have discussed about, let's say, like, creating connectivity links with India. They are interested in creating connectivity links in India so that trade related activities can flourish. So the thing is, if we talk about Bhutan as a country, Bhutan is dependent on hydropower and tourism revenues. Okay, it is dependent on hydropower, okay, hydropower and tourism related revenues. Okay, tourism related revenues. Okay, and India imports around 70% of the produce from Bhutan. So our trade with Bhutan has crossed 134 billion, right? When? In 2022. It was around 94 billion in 2020. So the thing is like, India is one of the largest trading partner with Bhutan. And so recently the King of Bhutan has visited India. He has, let's say, discussed about increasing the connectivity with India so that trade can flourish. And also India and Bhutan are together part of many initiatives. One of the initiatives is South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation. Here India and Bhutan are there. Then we have Bangladesh, Bhutan, India, Nepal, BBIN. Then we have BIMSTEC. Okay, we have BIMSTEC also. Bay of Bengal Initiative for Multi-Sectoral Technical and Economic Cooperation. So in these three regional groupings, India and Bhutan both are there. Okay, India and Bhutan both are there. And Bhutan is one of the trusted neighbors of India. Okay, so it is a time-tested neighbor of India. So the thing is, India should not be, let's say, like, India should not be confused. India should not be, let's say, like, very much concerned about Bhutan building diplomatic ties with China. It's not going to hamper India's stand. India and Bhutan has signed a friendship treaty in 2007 that is still in place. Okay, so this is the thing. You, in your free time, read this topic to understand little more. Okay, so this is related to international relations or bilateral relations. Now we are talking about another topic. It is Aditya L-1 mission. So what is Aditya L-1 mission? So when we talk about Aditya L-1 mission, it is, let's say, India's solar mission. Okay, it is India's what? Solar mission. So this mission has been launched by Indian Space Research Organization. It has been launched by Indian Space Research Organization. So we have sent a Aditya L-1 spacecraft, and this Aditya L-1 spacecraft is going to travel from Earth to a point which is known as L1 point, Lagrange point 1. And this Lagrange, so let's say this is Sun. This Lagrange point 1 is around 15 lakh kilometer away from the surface of Earth. Okay, so this is 1% of the distance from Earth, this L1 point, and this is 99% distance. Okay, so this is the thing. So how many L1 point, how many Lagrange points do we have between Earth and Sun system? There are 5 Lagrange points. One of the Lagrange point is directly between them. Other Lagrange point, which is L2, this is opposite to the Earth. Then we have another Lagrange point which is L3, this is opposite to the Sun. Then we have L4, this is around here, right, L4. Then we have L5. Okay, these are the Lagrange points that exist between Earth and Sun. So there are 5 Lagrange points. So we have sent Aditya L-1 over here. This Aditya L-1 has many payloads. It has 4 remote sensing payloads and 3 in situ payloads, and these payloads are going to study the Sun. It's going to study the radiations that are emitted by Sun, and it's going to provide information to the Earth. So recently what has happened, the high energy L1 orbiting X-ray spectrometer, which is also known as Helios payload. Okay, this is one of the 7 scientific instruments that are there in Aditya L-1. This is one of them, right? So this has given some data. It is on board the Aditya L-1 spacecraft. It has captured the first glimpse of the solar flares, and after capturing the glimpse, it has shared the data with the Indian Space Research Organization. So in this article, they have discussed about the kind of data that was shared by Helios. Okay, by Helios, this is the thing. So Indian Space Research Organization has sent this Aditya L-1 spacecraft. It is on its journey towards Halo, Lagrange point L1, Halo point. Okay, once it reaches over here, so along with Earth, let's say Earth is orbiting around the Sun, so this Halo orbit is also going to make an orbit around the Sun, and the thing is, this spacecraft will be relatively stable at this point. It is going to share data with Earth. This is the thing. So let's solve a question related to this topic. Okay, so I had included a question, maybe like, you know, I'll take that question little later. We have another topic. This topic says 7.5 million cases of TB in 2022 shows WHO global report. So the thing is, World Health Organization has recently released a global report, right? It has released a global report on tuberculosis. So when we talk about tuberculosis, it is caused by a bacteria. Okay, it is caused by a bacteria. Name of the bacteria is known as Mycobacterium tuberculosis. Okay, so that bacteria causes this particular thing, and according to the WHO report, according to this report, so the thing is, the prevalence of TB across the world is increasing. So the thing is, like, you know, at this point of time, around, right, so the net reduction from 2015 to 2022 has been 8.7%, far from the WHO TB end TB strategy milestone. So WHO has created a milestone. It is known as end TB strategy. Okay, end TB strategy. So according to this strategy, what we want to do, we want to end the TB by the year of 2025. Not end means like we want to reduce the TB by its prevalence by 50% by the year of 2025. This is the thing. So we want to reduce TB, but like, you know, this TB is one single disease that is, let's say, the cause for the second most number of death in the world. Okay, so India also has prevalence of TB. We do have huge prevalence of TB. Okay, so this is the thing. So in this article, they have talked about the prevalence of TB, how TB can be eliminated. Okay, so TB has caused around 1.30 million deaths in 2022, means 13 lakh people have died because of TB alone, right, in 2022. That's a very, I mean, like, you know, very grim picture. Now we have a question. It says, consider the following statements about tuberculosis. Active TB will probably treat by preventive therapy. People with latent TB infection have germs in their bodies, but they are not sick. People with latent TB can spread TB germs to others. So here they are talking about active TB and latent TB. I mean, like, you know, TB, tuberculosis. Active TB means a person showcases symptoms also, he gets affected. Latent TB means he is affected by TB, but the thing is, like, you know, symptoms are not visible yet. So this is the thing. So you need to identify which of these statements are correct. Okay, you need to identify which of these statements are correct, and also what we have done is we have included the correct answer over here. Okay, we have included. So statement 1 is incorrect, statement 2 is correct, and statement 3 is incorrect. Means like only statement 2 is correct, which is people with latent TB infection have TB germs in their bodies, but they are not sick. Okay, only second is correct, and first and third are incorrect. You can go through the explanation also in your free time. Then we have another topic. It says NATO declares formal suspension of Cold War era security treaty. So what do we mean by NATO? NATO means North Atlantic Treaty Organization. So this organization has been established through a treaty which is known as Washington Treaty. Okay, it has been established through a treaty which is known as Washington Treaty. And this Washington Treaty talks about a provision under Article 5, right, under Article 5, which is known as collective security. Okay, provision of collective security. So what do we mean by provision of collective security? So the thing is, according to the provision of collective security, it says presently NATO has many member countries. According to this collective security clause, it says if there is an attack on any member of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, it will be considered as an attack on all the members of North Atlantic Treaty Organization, and all the members are going to retaliate against the common enemy. Or if there is a threat to attack on any of the NATO members, it will be considered as a threat to attack on all the members, and all the members may commonly retaliate against the common enemy. This is the thing. Okay, so this is known as North Atlantic Treaty Organization. So North Atlantic Treaty Organization has signed a treaty for themselves long back, right, before the Cold War, right? Cold War started after the World War II. Cold War started. But the thing is, they have recently decided to suspend that treaty. What is the name of that treaty? Name of the treaty is Treaty of Conventional Armed Forces in Europe. Okay, this treaty was aimed at preventing Cold War rivals from massing forces at or near mutual borders. It was signed in November 1990, but they have recently suspended this particular treaty. This is the thing. Okay, they have recently suspended its functioning. Then we have another article. It says GST regime has brought tax rates down very effectively. So recently the finance minister of India was talking, and she has made points that GST regime has made the indirect taxes, right, a kind of umbrella tax, the goods and services tax, and this has brought the tax rates down. Okay, effectively earlier people had to pay double different types of taxes, so that led to double burden on the taxpayers. But the thing is, with the coming of the goods and services tax, the burden on taxpayer has gone down, because effective tax rate that people are paying is now less. And she has also talked about those businesses that are still evading the goods and services net. So she said that if you are evading the GST net, so the thing is like you will keep on continuously losing customers, because nowadays customers also prefer to have a GST number. Customer prefers to have a invoice that has GST, let's say tax related things mentioned. So the thing is, those businesses that are evading GST, so they are not going to make any profit. They should think of coming under the umbrella of GST, and they should become part of GST to make prosperity together, right, along with the nation. So that's all she has said. Okay, so this is a good topic. It says so she has called for transparent tax regime in the country in which everybody participates. She wants that every business should participate in the goods and services tax regime. Okay, so this is the thing. So that's so we do have some questions. One of the question, this particular question is related to, the topic that we have studied. That topic is this Aditya L-1. So it says visible emission line chronograph. So these are payloads. Okay, these are payloads or these are instruments that are part of Aditya L-1. Recently we studied this topic. So visible emission line coronagraph, solar low energy X-ray spectrometer, plasma analyzer package for Aditya Papa, then advanced triaxial high resolution digital magnetometers. How many of the above are type of in situ payloads of Aditya L-1? Remember, there are 3 in situ payloads. There are 4 remote sensing payloads. Okay, so so you need to identify how many of them are part of it. To answer this question, first you need to know which of them are in situ payloads. So they are remote sensing payloads and these are in situ payloads. So in situ payloads, like if we remember, one is known as SPECS, Aditya Solar Wind Particle Experiment, other is Plasma Analyzer Package for Aditya Papa, third is Advanced Triaxial High Resolution Digital Magnetometers. So these 2 are in situ payloads and other payloads are remote sensing payloads. So in this article, so the thing is like this, these 2 are in situ payloads. Okay, so is the solar spectrometer part of it? No. Aditya Solar Particle Experiment, SOLAS. Okay, so that's the thing. Only 2 of them are right. So correct answer would be only 2. Okay, so you go through this. Not all of them are in situ payloads. This is important. Okay, so like you need to see this explanation. I think it is, they have mentioned C, but in situ payloads are different and remote sensing payloads are different. So that will be all from my side for the day. Thank you so much everyone for attending today's session. I hope you have a good day ahead. Thank you.